Hello and welcome to our presentation this morning, Working with Your Child During the Summer Holidays. My name is Audrey Johnson, Educational Psychologist, and I will be co-presenting with Abigail Sterne, who's also an Educational Psychologist. We work with One Education here in Greater Manchester. We work to early years setting, primary schools, high schools and colleges around Manchester. Jordan will also be joining us from the Parent Carer Forum and will be signposting and introducing some valuable resources at the end of the presentation. What we want to talk about today is supporting your child through learning, through having fun, talking with your child, routines, activity planning, time for yourself and space for everybody, some of the challenges about working with your child during the summer holidays and playing with your child during the summer holidays. And then, as I said before, Jordan will be recommending resources, websites and links. We will have a question and answer session at the end, but this won't be recorded. However, if as a parent you're watching this webinar and you have any questions or queries, then you can direct them to us via the Parent Carer Forum. So first of all, I'd like to start with having fun with your child during the summer holidays. We've all had a very difficult year, almost a year and a half now being under COVID restrictions. And what we're not sure as of yet is what will happen with visitor attractions, what will be open, what won't be open, and what will be the restrictions. But there is a lot of sometimes emphasis and pressure on parents to have fun with doing high interest activities with your child during the summer holidays. And anyone with a family knows that actually taking your child out, how expensive it can be just for one simple day trip with a family. And also thinking about children with special educational needs, there may be additional challenges such as your child won't want to walk far, you may need wheelchair access, or your child finds it difficult being in busy and noisy environments. So even before you've got on a visit, it can be stressful for you as the adult planning and engaging your child with an activity. Also thinking about parents with older children or teenagers, what may seem like a really fun and motivating activity for yourself might not be as interesting for your older child or teenager. In fact, it may actually be quite challenging trying to get your teenager out of their bedroom and actually engage with a family activity. So for all day trips can be enjoyable and informative, it is important to remember some of these restrictions as well. And also it's really important to think about what can be done at home. When we think about keeping our child happy and having fun, we always seem to think about what can we do, where can we go? But actually fun, using what you have at home and having time and space to have fun at home can be helpful as well. Think of all the daily activities that can be done. That can be like art and craft at home, playing outside in the garden and the trampoline, even simple things like putting a bucket of water outside for your child to play in the summer, obviously, cooking, involving your child in the daily routine. All of these things can be fun when you've got a little bit more space and time at home. Also to think about what activities, and as I said, Jordan will be signposting to more of these at the end, can be done in the local community, in the local leisure centre. So for older children, it may be about helping them look at what's available at their local leisure centre, thinking about what their interests and what their enjoyments are to help them link into what's available. And also to think about giving older children and teenagers, supporting them with time out with their friends. So it may be a fun activity for them, might be going to the local shopping centre, it might be going into town. So to think creatively about what can be done, what does your child consider having fun, and what can you do both on external trips, in the community and at home that will help facilitate that. And also to think about, I think there's this pressure again on having activities and doing things. Everyone needs time, downtime. So like everyone, children will need that time to stop almost that time to be bored, to free their minds and to work their imagination. So just like adults, it's that time to think, what do I want to do? What would I like to do? So I think just allow that time and that space for you and your children to have a little bit of quiet time and downtime. And remember, you need fun too. It's about trying to make sure that you have a little bit of fun and a little bit of time, and that may be in reality time away from your child and time away from the family home, or time by yourself at home as well. I'm going to speak a bit more about quality time with a parent or a carer, because sometimes I think what we consider having fun with our child is actually we have to be actively doing something. But like in any relationship, having quality time or having fun is sometimes actually being in the same place, in the same space with a child or with an adult, and actually doing your own thing. And it may be your child is working on something at home, you're doing something, but every so often you're coming together and your child's saying, look at this, mum, look at this, dad, that I've made. And you're able to share those moments just with your child. So it's not about the adult being actively engaged constantly. It's about allowing each other that time and space as well. Talking with your child, this is such an important thing, and it's something that you do with younger children. We do all of the time. If you think of actually helping your child get dressed, helping them eat their breakfast, helping them get ready for going out, all of the time you're using language-rich conversations. Look at this. Where does your hand go? What are we doing? What are we eating? So all of the time you're using language-rich conversations. And what we know is what's so important for any relationship is having that time to talk with someone, being spoken to, and also importantly, being listened to as well. And as I said, we do that very automatically with younger children through our daily routines with them, but also if we're sitting reading a story, that's such a nice time to have talking about the book, but then that may lead on to the child then saying, remember this, or when we did this, or them telling you a story about themselves. With older children and with teenagers, it's much more difficult to engage. They might want to grunt and not answer. So those talking and listening times are much more difficult and much more challenging. And parents with older children and teenagers will know actually you grab those moments when you can. And I remember it sometimes actually being in the car, driving them somewhere where you're not actually actively looking at them, you're looking ahead and the focus isn't on your teenager. And then sometimes that might be an opportunity to have a conversation with them. It may be about tuning in a little bit when there's a bit more time and space during the holidays about what your child enjoys doing. Your teenager might enjoy being shut in their room on their PlayStation, on their Xbox. So it's about without intruding, but finding a way, oh, what is it you're doing? Right, show me that little bit about that. So what we call playing a little bit of you be the learner and your teenager be the teacher. So what is that again? And they may say, oh, get out, mom, get out, dad. No, don't. But again, it's persevering. You're the person who knows your teenager better and best than anyone. But I think it is still trying to persevere and make sure that they're listened to, because we know that when we're listened to, we're more likely to talk. And it is quite difficult because when we speak with our children, a lot of the time as adults and as parents, it's be polite, say thank you, say please, don't talk to me when I'm talking to so-and-so. So it's about trying to think more about listening and responding to what your child or teenager wants. I've spoke about the last 2 points here, talk about the world around you, pictures and real life objects. Again, that's with younger children. You know, when you go out to Asda, when you go out to the supermarket, look at what's around and provide that language-rich environment for them. Sorry, I'm just going to admit somebody else. I wonder, Jordan or Abigail, if you could please let the parent know that I'm admitting that we're recording. Is that okay? They're connecting. So, yeah, and model language and new vocabulary. So it's not about putting words in your child's mouth, but it's actually about helping them. So you're developing their vocabulary. So you might say, oh, look at that, and give them the name of what they're looking at. And you're modeling language. So you're modeling short phrases and sentences to help your child understand. And again, what I've said here, and I think it's so important, enjoy quiet time during play. So what I'm not suggesting is that it's all the time a running narrative. Oh, I can see you're doing this. Oh, I can see you're doing that. That's annoying for anybody. It's annoying for adults, and it's also can be annoying for children. So it's about giving yourself permission in that time to actually be quiet as well. Yeah, and what I've said as well at the end here, with younger children, with older children as well, it can be about helping them develop their language skills. So as educationalists, we talk about prediction, using their imagination and their higher order language skills. So even using a very simple storybook, or in situations around about you at home, it can be about saying, I wonder what's going to happen. I wonder, what do you think what might happen? Or how would you like, what do you think you would do in a situation like that? So it's using these higher order language questions, again, to suit the needs of your child. What you don't want to do is to be asking so many questions that your child switches off. So I'm just giving you some ideas here, but I think you use your skill as a parent and as the adult who knows your child best. Can I just say to the person that has just joined the presentation, we are recording this session this morning. I can see you're not on video, but if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat and that won't be recorded. And we will have time at the end where we're going to take ourselves off record and have time for questions. If you have any questions as I'm going through. So routines, that may seem contrary to what I've said about having fun, being relaxed during the holidays. But as we know, routines can provide some structure, and they can promote cooperation, and also they can alleviate anxiety. With a lot of children with special educational needs, with young children and older children, actually that time of just endless 6 weeks or time during the holidays can promote some anxiety. So it's about providing some structure, and that can be about the beginning of the day, lunchtime, meal times, getting ready. It may incorporate an activity during the day, and with younger children and even with older children, that can be the bedtime routine as well. So that bedtime routine might be about going upstairs, having time on your own, and with younger children it may be bath, story, even having a bottle, brushing teeth. So it can incorporate all of these things. So actually routines and structure, we're not talking about we do this at this time or we do that at that time, but just providing some structure can help both the children and the parents make their day and their days and their weeks more manageable. I'm going to go on later on to show you some visual timetables. But I think even with children with special educational needs and with children with younger children, visual timetables are something they will be very, very familiar with. They've been used at school, and they can help your child understand what's going on and can help plan your day and your week together. Also for older children, what I've said is give your child some choice over what activities they do. This can be done with younger children, but with older children and teenagers, it may be a case of giving them their timetable, a blank timetable, so to speak, with some support and some structure, but also helping them plan so that they have autonomy and the ability to choose what they need to do. With teenagers, it might be they want to do a little bit of studying during the holidays. They want to have time out with friends, but they can plan that with their own routines and timetables. I have also said what's really important is to give yourself permission to have non-routine days. In my house, we call it PJ days, you know, days where it's just actually for breakfast, it may be having chocolate, it may be watching DVDs, it may be just giving ourselves permission, actually, do you know what, today we're not going to be doing anything planned or anything structured. We're just going to be having a nap day in our pajamas day. However, again, this is dependent on your child. If your child has autism or has special educational needs, having no routines or having no structure to the day may not be relaxing and may not provide joy and happiness. That may actually be provoking some anxiety. So what you have to do is to consider the needs of your individual child and your family. I have put, again, these have all come from Sparklebox. We'll put all the websites at the end. This is a very blank visual timetable, but this is something that can be downloaded and used for older children. Or what you could do is, you can see there's lots of segments throughout the day. You could even have that visual timetable and use it and split it into maybe 2-3 parts. So it's not suggesting that there is a very strict and structured timetable for use throughout the day. These are just some ideas that can be used. Again, like we spoke about earlier on, I spoke about, it's about maybe using visuals to support just those very simple, having breakfast, the morning routine, brushing your teeth, the nighttime routine, getting up, having dinner. And even during the holidays, you still want to have some time where it's okay to be on screen, to be on electronics or computer, but there will be time where actually maybe you're saying it's not okay to sit on your computer all day. If you can see at the top of that, twinkle.co.uk, that is an absolutely fabulous website for using and for accessing information with lots of visuals from children, with young children, and for older children, and for children with special educational needs. And here are just a few more visuals that can be used as well. Okay. And what I want to talk about now is actually activity planning ideas. So if you have decided on going, it could be a visit to the local leisure centre, or it could be a visit to a museum, or an activity, or it could even be a visit to the local park. So it's about research and search information about where you're visiting. And that may sound so simple, but this helps you get the most out of any visit. Download pictures and details to share with your child. Again, those of you with children with special educational needs will know that that can be so very important. This gives your child an understanding of what to expect on the visit and what they're going to see, so that when you can prepare them and to think of, I wonder what we might want to look at when we're there. I wonder what questions we might want to ask. I wonder if you're going to an activity park or a play park, I wonder what you might want to play with first. What are you looking forward to? So all of these questions help prepare your question, what are you most looking forward to? And also to be asking the questions, is there anything that you don't think you will find interesting? Is there anything that you think you won't want to play on? And also to not to make assumptions. As adults, we think, right, that's it, we've prepared our child, they'll be ready for everything. Not make assumptions, to ask your child or young person, are there any questions that you want to ask about? So they may want to ask really the simple questions about, where are the toilets? Are there toilets? Where will we have lunch? Will we have lunch at the cafe? Will we be taking our own lunch? What will we do if this happens? What will we do if that happens? So be open about your child able to ask questions. With teenagers and older children, give them the opportunity. You may give them the website and say, why don't you go on and research and then come back to me with any questions, or come back to me with any ideas you have about what you would like to do or what you would like to say before we get there. Again, please remember that I'm talking about older children, and I'm kind of segmenting children into age groups, But you'll know that if you have children with special educational needs, when we talk about age, we also need to consider the developmental age of a child. So I'm not saying young children, older children, teenagers. You will know, you may have a teenage child who you are thinking actually developmentally they're at the younger age. Okay, so I'm just going to move forward again, and I'm now going to pass over to Abigail, who's going to talk. Yeah.
Okay,
thanks, Abigail.
So I want to talk a bit about social stories. So we know that for children with a lot of children with special needs, and particularly children on the autism spectrum and very anxious children, just any sort of changing routine can cause a lot of anxiety, as Audrey's just said. And so planning for going out for the day can be really important, because they're going to be in an unfamiliar setting where they don't quite know what's going to happen next. So that's really, really common for children with autism. So I wanted to talk a little bit about preparing your child with a social story. And quite a lot of you may have come across social stories in schools. So they're very commonly used to explain situations that, say, many people will pick up immediately or intuitively, but some children won't. So, for example, a school may write a social story about what happens at carpet time, or when to put your hand up appropriately, and so on. So it's things that some children haven't understood and need more careful explanation. And once you've written, the story should very much be tailored to that particular child and to what they might be finding difficult or what they may find difficult. And then once you've written a social story, you can use it again and again, you know, and you can refer back to it quite often. It's quite often helpful to have them, for example, in a ring binder. So we're just going to think a little bit more about using a social story to prepare your child for an outing. So it can give a short description of the event, which includes very specific information about what to expect. So if you're, for example, taking a child to a beach or the museum or to a swimming pool or to your local park, you know, anything that they find sort of out of their comfort zone and out of the ordinary, it explains things that it'll help them to know beforehand. So it can, and then it can help them cope with the changes. Could we have the next slide, please, Audrey?
Yes.
So as I say, it's important. I'm going to give a few little examples of social stories, but above all, it's important to write your own, because you will know your child well, and it helps prepare them for somewhere new. So we're going to look at an example of one. Now, it was Jordan who pointed this out to me, and it's in the access section of the People's History Museum. And I think it's a really lovely social story to prepare people for the visit to the museum. Now, it may well be that other museums and other facilities have their own social stories. So do have a look under access sections of different organisations' websites, and you may find something. There are also some really good social stories on the National Autistic Society website. If you just look in their search engine, you'll find lots of social stories. So shall we have a look at this story now?
Yeah, I'll try to do that for you. There we go. Can you see that?
Yeah, okay. So
do you want me to scroll down, Abigail, to scroll
please,
through it? Yes,
and I'll talk through it. So
I'll go through it slowly.
So what you'll notice, and what's often really important in social stories, is there's lovely photographs. And if you're writing a social story, do try and add pictures if you can get any of, for example, where you're going. So there's your first picture, and that's showing a picture of the actual museum. If you can sort of quickly scroll through, Audrey, and it explains there's the building with the doves outside. Okay.
Keep going, Abigail.
Okay,
Yes.
so there's the doorway. Yeah, just go straight through. So it explains that, you know, that's the doorway. There might be a revolving door. That in itself might be interesting for some children. Yeah, so you'll be welcomed by the staff. You can take the lift or the stairs up to the main galleries. And there's some nice pictures of what the place actually looks like, what you're going to expect. So there's some pictures of the galleries. Okay, and so that's really helping the child understand and visualize what they're actually going to go and see. And then, you know, some children might get anxious about, you know, are there going to be any toilets there? Where are the toilets? So you're already getting them used to the idea that there they are and where they are. And of course, this isn't just for children, it's for adults as well, who may worry about these sort of things. Where are we going to have lunch? Okay, well, you'd be able to talk about, you know, there's a cafe, or are you going to take your own sandwiches? And then there's a shop. And again, if shops are going to be a bone of contention, and they often are for sort of cash-strapped parents and children who want to buy things, you know, that gives you can even prepare your child for the fact that there's going to be a shop there, but they may not be able to have everything they want and so on. So I just think that's a really nice example of what you can use to prepare somebody for a trip. And, you know, really, as I say, it's worth looking in the access section of different organizations and seeing if there's anything similar. Okay, do you want to go on to the next slide, Audrey?
No, sorry, it's not. Hold on. There we go.
No. Yeah. So just a few fairly straightforward pointers about how you would write a social story. So what do you want your child to know? So if there are any things that make your child particularly anxious, you'll want them to feature in the social story. Then always try and use as many visuals as possible. So, you know, depending on where you're going, if you can get a picture of what that's going to look like, that helps the child be prepared for it. And then do try and tailor the text for your child. So you're making the language as simple as possible. So, you know, do try and gather as much information. Where does it occur? Who's going to be there? You know, where will you begin? Where will it end? And what's going to happen and why? So do, as I say, tailor the text, make it as straightforward as possible. And you may well want some sentences in explaining how, in a sense, how you behave in that situation. So if you're going to a library, you might want something saying, usually people are quite quiet in libraries, or something like that in a museum. So anything that needs particularly explaining about, you say you're wanting one about going into town. You might have some sentences saying, I will try to hold an adult's hand when I'm crossing the road. Or at the swimming pool, I will wait for my mum before I jump into the pool. So try and get those sentences in as well. If I get angry, I can take some breaths. I can hold on tight to my mum's hand. So put what the desired behaviour in that social story. Can we just move on to some example social stories, Audrey? So this first one is, these are all taken from Social Stories book by Carol Gray. And she was she was the person who invented this whole idea of a social story. But there's a nice one for what do people do at the beach. And again, if you were planning a trip to the beach, you might want to include a photo of the beach. So it's saying, just a very simple explanation. So, for example, the beach is a sandy place near water. People like to do many things at the beach. Then it describes what people do at the beach. And again, you may well want to put you may want to put the instruction like, if the beach is crowded, I will always stay near my parents. or something like that, just to try and sort of teach the behaviour you're hoping for. Should we move on to the next one? So again, it's quite common. I mean, we're talking about a booster seat. I think in this particular story, it's for using a booster seat in a cafe. But I was thinking you could, if a lot of children can be resistant to using a booster seat, for example, in a car. So you could write a social story. This one is it explains quite carefully. Well, you might want to explain why the child needs to sit in a booster seat, and it's something that a lot of children will resist. So if you've got a social story there with a child in a booster seat, explaining that a booster seat helps to keep a child safe, with a picture on, and then you're going back to it, that might help you ease a child into a booster seat if they're not very keen on it. Should we just have a look at the last one?
Sorry.
And again, it looks like, oops. Here's one.
No, sorry, it's not.
Okay. So.
Sorry. That's all that's there.
Okay, that's fine.
Bye. That's it?
Yeah. So it can be infuriating when you're going on a trip with children and they're constantly saying, when are we going to get there? And then they're in a traffic jam and why are we still in the car? So I think, again, somebody's thought through this and thinking, well, let's try and address this through a social story. And really it's trying to get across to the child that you can't always know when you're going to get there. So again, if that's your situation, a social story might help. So these social stories that I've just shown you come from, as I say, Carol Gray's book. But if you go online and look at the National Autistic Society website or just Google social stories, you will get lots of examples of different ones. And I think there are some lovely ideas. But above all, I think the examples are really great and to give you ideas about how you could tailor a social story for your own child. Okay, over to you, Audrey, after the outing.
Yeah, so what I've done is I've written down some ideas here about after the outing. So with older children, I'm not talking about with older children and teenagers, it might be writing a diary, a written account of the visit. That sounds a little bit formal, but that could be anything. It could be a sentence or two, or it could be a postcard that you've bought at the shop and then writing something, just a sentence, I really liked the visit, or my favorite thing was. With younger children, drawing a picture, recording what they enjoyed. So actually, we've all got mobile phones now, so it may be taking a couple of pictures when you're there and keeping them, or else actually letting your child audio record themselves onto the phone, so that you're not making it almost like a school-based learning task, but you are actually getting trying to capture and getting them to remember and think about what they enjoyed and what they did. Make a collage of photos of the visit. Again, we very rarely print out photographs now, but it could be pictures, it could be little things that they've got from the museum if they've bought anything. Art and craft activities. Again, drawing a picture, making something, using plasticine, Play-Doh, all of these things that can be used just as a little bit of an activity so that you've got something, so it's not just the outing. Afterwards, you can think of things that can be done at home quite simply and quite easily to remember and to record aspects of the visit that they enjoyed. And even it's okay for them to say, oh, I really hated it, or we went to the cafe and I didn't like it because I didn't like the burger we had, or when we went outside it was raining. So think of things that your child can tell you about, or your teenager can tell you about after you've had the activity or the outing. And remember, we're talking about the visit to a museum. This can also be done with very simple activities that maybe you think about a school and a learning experience at school. How many times has your child come home and said they've gone to the park and they've collected leaves and they've made a collage, or they've collected something, sticks or something that they found, or nice little stones. So don't think it always has to be something that you have to pay a lot of money to do. You can organize anything. It can maybe even be, let's go to the back garden and see what we can find, or let's go to the park, or let's go out in the street. So think of things that you can do and you can use, and then record it afterwards. When I say record it, what I mean is capture the experience for the child or the young person. Can you see that, Abigail?
Yeah,
Back to
that's
you.
fine.
Yeah.
Okay. So I suppose thinking ahead to the long holidays can be quite daunting for parents. And I do remember this feeling well from when I had 3 little ones.
Abigail, you're on mute.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I hadn't realised it was on mute. Okay. Audrey, can you go back to the previous slide? So,
sorry, hold on.
So
hold on, please. Sorry.
With the approach of the summer holidays, it can be really quite daunting for parents. I do remember when I had 3 little ones, and I used to approach it with a slight sense of dread. It can be really stressful for everybody, for you because you've got the children on a lot of the day, and for the children because they're out of their routine and they are used to having the structure of school, and then that can be quite a challenge. So do, in a sense, give everyone time to adapt to the slower pace. And often it can be quite difficult at the start to do that, and to not having such a clear structure to the day. You have to sort of readapt to the mess that's going on in your house, and maybe try and keep to the perspective of, is this really going to matter in 6 months' time? At the same time, try and establish some fairly clear boundaries. And if your children are slightly older, some of the rules, for example, about going out and keeping in touch and the time they have to be back, but try and do that. Try and pick a time that's fairly calm to do that, rather than sort of when they're just about to go out and then they're going to start negotiating a coming in time. So try and stay calm. We know children will take their frustration out on you. Step away, go to another room. If they're getting agitated, it's not a good time to start, to really get embroiled in an argument, but take a step back and only agree to start discussing and negotiating when they're quiet. It can easily things can escalate very easily, but do take a breather. I think it's really important to think about your own support network. And I think often we can be a little bit shy in approaching other parents. If you do know, say by sight, or have the contact for some of the parents, of your children's friends, don't be shy in approaching them, and maybe arranging some play dates. And again, I suppose I draw on my own recollections of having teenagers and at that age where they're wanting to start going out in the evening. And it made a whole load of difference once I managed to get 1 or 2 other parents' phone numbers, and we started, agreeing coming in times and so on. So I would say don't hold back from approaching other parents, because probably they would be very happy to get to know you and to make some mutual arrangements about your children. I think Audrey covered a bit more about teenagers, but don't assume that they don't want to spend time with you. I sometimes think we go, oh, teenagers, they just want me right out of their lives, and it can feel a bit like that. But quite often they actually don't. It's not really the case, but they sort of want to spend time with you at a time to suit them and on their terms. And often that can be to sort of reasonably late, late in the evening and so on. But do be a bit open to listening about, when they are ready to talk to you and about what they want. And I think actually most teenagers do really enjoy spending time with their parents at a time of their choosing. Okay, do you want to move on to the next slide? And I suppose finally, from this bit of the presentation, just also so important to make sure you are having time for yourself. It's purely for really for self-preservation purposes. You know, it's tough being with your children all the time over the summer holidays. And don't lose, you know, do also prioritize your own well-being and time for you to switch off and relax, and time for yourself. And it can sometimes feel like it's quite hard to get that, but do try and, you know, bring in other people, family, and so on, so that you do get a bit of time. And I suppose finally, don't lose sight of how important these relationships are with your children. You know, you can sort of beat yourself up all the time about what you're not doing for them and that you're not doing more for them, but you know, little things can mean an awful lot. So do stay positive, you know, to yourself. Focus on, if you have managed to do something with them that day, do try and focus your thoughts on that and not, you know, what you're not managing to do. And also do stay positive with your child, and remember the value of praise and positive reinforcement. And even if they're driving you a bit crazy, if you can pick out the things that you love about them, that they're doing really well, and do feed them back positives, that always really helps. It helps them and it helps the relationship. So be kind to yourself above all, and try and stay really positive with your children as well. Okay, over to Jordan, is it now?
Jordan, yeah, Jordan.
Hi guys. So before I go to my slide, just to stress again what Abigail said about being kind to ourselves, because as a parent carer myself, I know that we tend to, you know, always put our child first, which I imagine all parents probably do anyway. But it's just keeping in mind, if you're overly stressed, maybe sometimes to the point that you're ill and you don't recognize it, we might not recognize it at the time, but maybe it will affect your mood when you're out with your child. Maybe may not be as patient. So yeah, don't feel bad about taking time out. If for a particular day you're not able to take your child to a fun place, don't worry about it. One day at home wouldn't really be too bad. And maybe, like as mentioned in the earlier slides, there's always something fun to do at home anyway as well. So yeah, be kind to yourself. Self-care is important. Audrey, do you mind?
Mm-hmm.
The next slide, please.
Hold on, sorry. Oh.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna share with you guys some of the activities that we were told will be happening here in Manchester over the summer. So all of these activities will be free, but you will have to book through the city council. I don't have details yet, but we thought we'd just mention it now so that you can have a think about particular questions that you might want to ask during the Q&A session later. So for example, boating, if you think that will be interesting for your child, but you can imagine your child trying to jump off the boat, you can share it during the Q&A, and maybe Audrey and Abigail will be able to give us some tips about, and then yeah. So these are things I know will be happening. I don't have details yet, but I will tell you how you can find details later. So yeah, Treetop Trek is Treetop Trek is an outdoor sort of trampoline nets hanging on trees. This is based in Heaton Park. It's really fun, particularly for children who like physical play. And then I mentioned boating at Heaton Park. This is just if you know the lake over there, there's a restaurant across. So yeah, I'm one of those parents who are scared that my son will jump off the boat. So yeah, but I think this is interesting. And I know that from last year, a lot of parents found this uh, fun as a fun activity. And then I think there are some specialist schools who will be opening their grass area, their outdoor area to families with special needs. That's the outdoors play scheme that's mentioned here. And then also there will be bookings at Children's Adventure Farm Trust that will be reserved for Manchester families. For those of you who are not familiar with CAFT, Children's Adventure Farm Trust, it's based in near just outside of Altrincham. It's a really nice farm area that, and they cater specifically to vulnerable children, children with special needs, children with physical disabilities. So if you're worried about taking your child there and they won't be able to understand your situation, I kind of guarantee they will. They're amazing. And also Red Bank sensory rooms. Red Bank House is based near the city center, and they have I think at least 2 sensory rooms that you will be able to book for your family for free. Other things that will be happening, we've been told by the council, are a music project from Billy and Andy's. Billy and Andy is a duo that does a lot of visits to specialist schools around Manchester. So again, they're well trained and knowledgeable about working with children with special needs and disabilities. I think there will also be some water sports activities happening at Debdale Center. That's I think in the east of Manchester. And then there will be a market garden in Plattsfield Park. If you don't know Platfields, that's near the Manchester University area. They have a sensory garden just within the park. They've done some activities last year as well, so they're knowledgeable with working with children with special needs. And then from the forum, from Manchester Parent Care Forum, we recognize that some families may not be able to take their children out during the holidays, whether that's worries, health worries because of the pandemic, or because you're not yet comfortable taking your child to museums, for example, because of behavior or safety safety. So we thought we'd do this project called Happy, Active, and Healthy Packs, which we're partnering with a charity called 4City Limited. So the whole idea is you can apply for a pack and we'll send you home some nice activities and food recipes plus a food voucher that you can do with your child at home. Yeah, to stay active and healthy from within the home. Audrey, do you mind moving to the next slide, please? So I mentioned I don't have details about those activities yet, but how can you find out once they become available? Please follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/mpcfinfo, or just search on the search bar, Manchester Parent Care Forum. So as soon as the council shares with us the booking information, we'll post it over there on Facebook, as well as on our website, manchesterparentcareforum.org.uk. We'll share all these links on the last slide later on. And the other thing is, I recommend that you sign up to the local offer newsletter so that you can receive all updates directly from the City Council via email. Not just for the summer events, but all other stuff that they have going on moving forward. They do it like twice monthly. And other than the newsletter, if you go to the City Council website, it's called the local offer. There's a section in the Manchester City Council website that's specific to families with special educational needs and disabilities. It's called the local offer. So that's manchester.gov.uk/send local offer. And then within that website, you can search any activity or info that you're looking for. So let's say you're looking for Girl Scouts, for example. So just put there in the search bar Girl Scouts. It will show you some results, and you will be able to filter the results based on your location or your child specific needs or age, all those kind of things. Audrey, please, next slide, please. Yeah, so here are the links that we promised. So everything on these two slides are the links we covered over the past hour or so. And we will share this presentation with you guys by email after the session. Yeah. So I think, Audrey, we're gonna switch off the recording now, right? So people can, if people